Hey guys, we're going to be taking apart our Pepe Tools Ventura melt because I think one of our, well, the melting chamber has somehow broken. I don't know if you guys knew this, but like inside these melt chambers is a series of coils, just like your burnout oven. And it's not like induction or anything super fancy. So when this heats up to melt your metal, it's all being done within this melt chamber, and those elements are completely enclosed within insulation, inside an insulation layer. Our melter has seen a ton of use, as you can see. It is not looking too new or pretty. We've got lots of flux around the rim. It's just pretty gross. We've got lots of metal that's fallen down between the cowling. The outside of this melter is aluminum, so that's something I'm not super jazzed about, and it does melt when it gets in contact for extended periods of time with bronze, as we can see here. This was a much needed clean out, I think, not just in terms of replacing the melt chamber, but just getting it back up to a useful, clean, sanitary standard, I suppose. Now, to get inside of this unit, we have to take it pretty much entirely apart. And thankfully, these are very simple tools. All the electronics are stored in the bottom, and then there's very few additional things on top of that. So there are no guides for taking this apart. I'm quite literally just going through saying this screw goes here, and I'm going to take that off, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully we don't find more buried within. Now, just a quick note here, I did have to grind out this screwdriver bit to be a little bit smaller because whatever I had did not work. You might be able to find an appropriate one with like electronics screwdrivers or something to get into these little kiln screw things within the ceramic block. And with that, that lifts off the entire melt chamber. Now, one of my big concerns with this whole process is the thermocouple, as you can see there in the middle. It just kind of sticks up inside the machine, and it actually acts as like an offset, like a post that holds up the bottom of the melt or the crucible itself while it's inside. So this I'm not actually going to be replacing. I don't have another one. I need to be very careful with them. If you have any experience with kilns or melters or anything like that, thermocouples are a very delicate piece. And you can see inside there we had a protector around it. So this thermocouple should be in pretty good condition. The new one also has one. Hopefully they all are compatible and the same length. That's one thing that I don't have any real control over with these new parts, is making sure that everything works together. And these little offsets for the cowling are really not that well done. They are clearly welded onto the surface, but they're made in a material, I think it's aluminum, that's really soft and isn't holding a thread very well. On the very bottom, we have these four screws, which will release it from the plate, and I believe that's one of the last things that actually has to happen. We've got all these ceramic offsets that need to be accounted for and put in the correct places, so we don't want to lose those. So before we get too far, I do want to take a look at the inside of this unit. I want to know where everything goes. So we have the uh, element power out right here, connected to these two little, well, this hub, and then we've got the thermocouple in the middle. All of this is connected to a bypass switch, which is under here. This is what attaches to the lid and actually stops the melting process when this is triggered. It's just a simple little relay switch, I think. This seems to be the controller itself. A very valuable little piece. I might, if in the event that this machine quits, I might pull that out and try to retrofit it onto a kiln or something, because clearly this can handle those kind of temperatures. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot going on. There are some fuses in the larger one, but they're rated for up to like 260 volts, 240 volts or something, which in the US and Canada is way overkill. So you'll probably never ever trip these fuses. Yeah, so let's get this back together. We're going to put the new one, making sure we have the new one. This is the clean one, so for me, it's not that difficult. If you have a new one and you're swapping this out for whatever reason, it might be a little bit harder to tell. Make sure you keep track of those. This is a part where I do run into some problems. The thermocouple is not fitting. So what I had to do was actually reach inside and break off the top of this shroud so that it could poke through. I may have been able, in hindsight, been able to drop it, like lower it, but I didn't feel like I had that option because it was already so low. In the end, I did go back over and put some kiln grout, some kiln repair grout, over the top of the thermocouple, so it is still protected. It's going to be fine. I can see within the old one that they did use kiln grout to cover it up. So to reassemble, we're just going to put just the screws back to where they belong. I hope you kept track of that. But before I fully secure every single last little thing down, I want to run it first as a test, just to make sure that it will actually turn on and get power and all that stuff. And it thankfully booted up right away. Everything seemed to connect. It does run like a self-test to make sure that it is working. This actually all came about when the element just stopped heating. I was melting some bronze and it just peaked at about, I think it was 1,900 and no, 1,900 something, and it just wouldn't go up any further, and then it started dropping. So I figured, uh-oh, the element is broken, and well, it just wasn't working. I actually think the element was fine in my old melt chamber. I think it was actually the insulation was just like burnt out. It wasn't able to capture enough heat and bring it all the way up because you turn it off and on and it would still register, it would still go through the test, it would still pass. There was still power going to it, but it just wasn't able to continue. So I think I did make the right choice. Unfortunately, you can't just replace the insulation or the elements separately because they are all one integrated unit in something that I think is referred to as a muffle furnace style, where the fuel source, in this case the electrical element, is physically separated from the thing that you're trying to melt or fire. One pro tip before we close out this video is if you ever get one of these melters, make sure you fire it the first time outdoors because whatever insulation they use in these things, as it's setting up that first time, absolutely reeks. I don't know what they're doing, but it's a great machine. It's definitely worth getting still. Um, I highly recommend this unit. This has been a great one for the last 2 or 3 years, I think. And then I have the smaller version as well, which has lasted us since, oh, I don't know, like 7 years, I think, and still going. And I can still, of course, get parts for it. So I strongly recommend these units. They are very solid. You can get them at Pepe Tools. We have an affiliate link in the description below. If you got this far, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.